So I think we have everyone. Welcome to our session at the book fair. Family Comes First: The Affection and Affliction of Thai Chinese Culture. And we have a great guest with us today. I'm going to pronounce this name terribly. I apologize in advance. Narisapongse Rakwattananont, who's joining us from Japan. And he's here to talk about his book, his short story collection, Family Comes First. But before I get into that, again, thank you so much for coming here today. I know you had some problems getting here today. The CrowdStrike outage hits us all, and it hit you. So thank you for coming in.
Okay, firstly, because you pronounced my name perfectly, so don't worry about it. And I just got here at Hong Kong this morning, 11 a.m. because the CrowdStrike. I supposed to be here at 4 a.m. in the morning. Yeah, but here I am. But I'm still happy, really, really happy to be here. Thank you for having me here. I appreciate it.
So we will be open for questions, but just be aware, running a little bit tired today. But let's start about the book. And I want to talk about, for those in the audience who maybe this is the first time hearing about your work, what is Family Comes First? What's the idea behind this short story collection?
Okay, open with the with the hardest question, right? Okay, first I have to apologize to you guys about my not so perfect English, but I'll try my best. Okay, back to the question. Families Come First is the collection of short stories, consists of 11 short stories about the life, the culture and tradition of Thai Chinese, and like the title says, the affection that caused the affliction to the person to the people, such as the elderly, the children, the father, the mother, everyone have been like hurt by the tradition that we adhere so much. Yeah.
So let's talk about some of those traditions. So when you talk about Thai Chinese families, Thai Chinese culture, what are the sorts of relationships you're talking about? The family practices, the pressures you want to talk about when you're talking about Thai Chinese families?
Yeah. Okay, I'm gonna cool down a little bit and talk more slowly. Okay, about the tradition, when we talk about the Chinese tradition, one or two, three things that pop out in our idea. Some are like we tend to treat son better than daughters, or at some time of the year we have to gather together and pay respect to the elderly or the people who pass away, our ancestors, something like that, and we have to do it properly, or else we'll be like fall into some unlucky or something like that. And if we do it properly, we will like be auspicious for the rest of the year, and we'll do it again and again and again, next year, something like that.
So I want to talk about your own personal story for a bit and how you became a writer. I guess what started you on this path to being a literary writer, to writing the short story collection?
Okay, I said this into so many interviews, but I'm not a like natural born reader or writer, something like that. The first book that I start reading, like seriously reading, are it's a novel of Haruki Murakami. It's called The Wind of Bird Chronicle. At that time, I was in high school. I was like 17 or 18. I don't know what made me in the past think that, oh, I'm a high school student. I'm gonna read the 500-page novel from the Japanese writer, but I read it anyway. And when I finished reading it, I was like tantalizing. There's some appealing in it that made me want to continue reading his work. And when I continued reading his work, I found something that I found that they moved me in the like deeper side of me. And it was one perfectly fine day that I start thinking, oh, maybe I could write. So I start writing, and I keep on writing from like I start writing my first short story when I was like 24, and when I was 27 or 26, I started thinking that maybe I should move one more step. And what is one more step for me? It was like having my own book. Yeah, and the rest is, I'm going to talk more about it later. Okay, back to Nicholas. Thank you.
But you also, you were kind of working as a copywriter, so you were a professional writer, and then you decided to move away from that to then start writing more literary stuff. I mean, how did that decision happen to go from, being a professional writer to, I guess to being more creative?
Personally, I think writing as a copywriter and writing as a fiction writer is kind of different, because as a copywriter you have your clients to serve, your brands to serve, but writing fiction you only serve yourself. Or of course you have to serve the readers, but mainly if you satisfy with your work, I think that's okay as long as you're satisfied with your work. But when working as a copywriter, the decision isn't yours only, right? You have to present it to the clients, and clients said, could you make this word sound more positive, something like that. Yeah, and I think writing fiction is one way of liberate myself from the industry, something like that. So when we were talking earlier, you talked about how you actually got the ideas behind the stories in Family Comes First. And I wonder if you might share with our audience kind of what your process was for coming up with the ideas behind your short stories. Oh, that's one of interesting process. When I decided the theme of my collection of short stories, because I'm prone to write short stories than the novel. When I decided the theme will be about the life of Thai Chinese people, and life of Thai Chinese people, I post the status on Facebook. The status was when you talk about Thai or when you talk about Chinese, what comes to your mind? And people come and answer on my status. And I pick up some interesting topic and I talk to them more. Something like, if you're in the Chinese family, that tends to be the one who made the final say. Normally is the eldest of the house, and when the eldest pass away, the power is passed on to the next generation. And normally it would be the eldest son or the eldest member of the family, something like that. And it's a thing that, my family doesn't have this kind of tradition. So it intrigued me to delve more into the topic and make it a story.
So what's one of the short stories in your collection that was inspired by one of these social media conversations?
Actually, there are a lot, but one of it is the story that's called Papa Say.
Yeah, so I'm going to read the English synopsis for those who don't have the book. Papa said so. What happens when the eldest brother follows every word of Papa's lessons to take care of younger siblings, to sacrifice, and to manage everything for everyone?
Yeah, that's the one. I think okay, I will elaborate more about the story. Papa Says So is the story of the eldest brother who have to adhere to tradition that Papa told him, and he has to impose this to his siblings. But the thing is, he himself doesn't even know that this tradition is good, is it the right thing to do, but he has to do it because Papa says so. And I think that's the thing that I want to tell the reader about when you look at the tradition that is prevail in our society, mainly in Thai society, are these traditions that we adhere or we are trying to adhere so much are really good for ourselves, or are there something that needs changing or like reconsider something like that?
So that's a story that came from one of your social media conversations. What about a story that came from you? What's one story that came from your from your thought process, from your experience?
If I have to say something about my experience that turned into my short stories, it has to be two last short stories. Mm-hmm. It's a 10th and 11th one, and the last one.
That would be, was it My Dear Sister in Pieces?
Yeah, My Dear Sister in Pieces.
Mm-hmm. So quickly, I mean, My Dear Sister, a brother becomes the object of his older sister's resentment as he consistently receives praise, warmth, and love from the family, leaving her invisible in her own home. So why don't you talk a bit more about My Dear Sister then?
Okay, to be honest, I think My Dear Sister came directly from my own experience because, as I said earlier about the tradition that we tend to, in Chinese family, we tend to like treat son better than daughter. And yeah, that happened to me too because I was a son and a prodigy son. I was a son with good grades. I was a son with the like polite attitude and nice attitude who like respect everything that the elderly said. But my sister, she's the opposite. She's like the rebel one of the house, and she didn't get good grade. Yeah, so there's a huge difference between us, and that caused different treatment to us too. But to be honest, if I have to say that I didn't want this to happen because I love her too, because she's my only one and only older sister, right? And that I think that's the wound or the damage that caused by the one of the damage that caused by the Chinese tradition.
And then the other short story mentioned Pieces. I mean, whereas the one we just talked about was kind of between siblings, Pieces is about between parent and child. I mean, the premise is it's an exchange between a son and his mother as they discuss bits and pieces of life's fragments. What was your motivation in writing that short story?
I think this one is like the thing that's been here with me all along my life because in my life I think my mom is the one who's closest to me, and she's the person who loves me most in the world, and I think I love her most in the world. But there are lots of things about her that I didn't know, like maybe last 2 years, I was just sitting with her, and then she said, "Oh, do you know that I can speak Mandarin? Not Mandarin. What the language we use in Malaysia? Malaysian?
Would it be? Oh, good question. Cantonese? No. Okay. Well, a different dialect of Chinese.
Yeah." And because she used to live in Malaysia or something like that, and I was like, "What? I didn't know this thing. You haven't told me all these years that we've been living together under the same roof." And I think that's one thing, and I know that there are lots more of things about her that I still didn't know, and I don't think I have to admit it that maybe there won't be the day that I know everything about her. Yeah, and the pieces, the story of the pieces is about the son who's talking with his mom about, "Oh, what is your birthplace? What was you like when you was a girl? What about your teenage life? And how was your feeling when you gave birth to me or my other siblings?" Yeah, something like that. and there are there are things that I never have the guts to ask her because maybe I'm too shy or something like that. And I think that's the thing that happened to like most of us, that we still don't know lots of things about our parents, right? And we are too shy to ask. And when I look at the feedback on the social media, I saw some feedback that said, oh, when I finished reading this story, it motivated them to talk to their parents more because they don't want to have regret when their parents pass away, that, oh, there's a lot of things that we haven't talked about, and now we can talk about it anymore, and we also regret something like that.
So we are open to questions from the audience. So if you have something you'd like to ask Min, please raise your hand and ask your question. While you're thinking about it, you mentioned social media feedback, and I wanted to ask about some of the reception to your book and whether or not there were any differences between how Thai Chinese responded to your book and how just Thai people responded to your book. Were there any differences?
I think there's a huge difference, Nicholas, because when I saw the feedback that stated that they're like Thai 100% Thai, they said like, I didn't get it at all about the story. Is that the burden that you guys like Thai Chinese have to bear? Is that this much? I never know. Yeah, but reading your story made me like want to understand the culture, the different culture more, and I think that's a great feedback that I received. And talking about the feedback from the Thai or half Thai Chinese readers, they say that the story like connect deeply with them, and they can like resonate with every page or every sentence written in the book, and I also think that is a really great feedback that I received.
Did you get much response from people outside of Thailand? I know the book's only in Thai, so there might not be a lot of feedback outside of Thailand, but have you gotten any response so far?
The response I got so far are that they wanted to read it, they wanted to understand, because they initially already know what the content of the stories are about, so they wanted them to be translated into the language that they can read, and I also hopefully so. Really hope so.
Any questions from the audience as of now? Yes, please, and introduce yourself when you ask your question.
Hi, my name's Sam.
Hello, Sam.
Yeah, it just has me thinking, because you said you really love your older sister and you didn't like the way that she was treated growing up. What was her reaction to the story? And do you think like you writing this story could help the situation in your family, or has it changed your relationships in your family?
Okay, first of all, it changed because firstly, I was really afraid that she will read it. Yeah, because if she read it, she must instantly know that this story is about her. And first I was like, oh, maybe she thinks this wrote about me. Just something like that. And Sam, that day was really magical because it was the day that I'm going back from Thai to Japan, and at that time I was in the taxi, and then she texted me. She said that, oh, I already read it, and I never know that you were hurt too. And I'm so sorry about that. And my reply was, I knew that time that you were hurt too. I'm so sorry. I really wish I could go back and make amends of things or make things better or took better care of you. Yeah, but things happen and I love you. And I think that's one of the greatest moment between us. Yeah, because although we love each other, we are not the siblings that have great relationship. Yeah, because the way we were treated, definitely.
And that's something I want to follow up on because, I mean, it's a lot of the book's stories are about, how these traditions, how these affections can turn into afflictions, into negative emotions, negative things. But it also seems like it's opening the door potentially to repair, to fixing the relationship, healing the relationship, moving past the negative things that have happened because of these Thai Chinese practices.
Yeah, I agree with you, Nicholas, because I think the reason I wrote Families Come First because I think that if we want to heal, we need to know where our wounds are. Yeah, we have to look directly at the things that make us the way we are today, what makes the beauty of us, what makes the ugly of us, so then we can heal. And the funny thing is, I saw one of feedback. Yeah, I must admit, I'm the writer who obsessed with the feedback. Yeah, and one of the feedback that I saw that the readers say they want to show this they want their parents to read it. Yeah, even my graphic designer showed this short story to her parents, and her parents love it. And I think maybe Families Come First can be the bridge between the younger generation and the older generation. And if they read it and they make amends of things, and they can see things from different perspective, from the different perspective of different generation, that will be great for me.
It's good you mentioned your graphic designer because that was something that a lot of reviewers picked up on. The paratext, the cover, the other things that go into the book beyond just the text of your stories. And so I wanted to kind of quickly ask, what are your thoughts about how the book has been produced in terms of working with your graphic designer, the cover, the artwork, all of that stuff? What are your thoughts about that process?
Okay, first, because when it comes to the cover, the publisher had to send it to me first, right? Because the writer have to approve the cover. And the moment I saw it, I text back to my publisher. I said, "Whoa, this is the one. Yeah, this one is really, really cool. Let's make it." And when I read the interview from my graphic designer, she said, I know that I came to understand that there are lots of deeper meaning hiding behind the cover. Apart from the design or the color, I wish I can show you the cover of the book. Yeah, back to the question. What was the question, Nicholas?
Oh, I mean, it's like given that all the reviewers talk about how great the cover was and how great everything else around the book, in addition to your stories, was, and just kind of again, just talking about how the cover was picked, how the other stuff was picked, and how you see the book is one whole thing, including the cover, including the artwork.
Okay, because like I said earlier, the artwork of the Families Come First consists of the cover and the opening page between each story. And when you look at the cover, you may think, oh, this one is this must be the really, really cool book. And when you read it, all of it, and then you look at it again and look at the opening page again, you will like consider the whole story again. And I think that makes the book like more fulfilling, and you can like understand the meaning of the book more than the things that is written. But you can understand the book with the thing that is designed. And yeah, I think that's a great thing.
Yeah, I mean, and clearly it's important. And just we'll move on. So, but like, I remember all those publishers that that would republish books like Harry Potter, but give them adult covers so people wouldn't be embarrassed by adults reading Harry Potter on the subway, because they're like, oh, they're reading this very adult-looking book. It's not a children's novel. Do we have any more questions from the audience? Yes.
Hi, my name's Nawin. I was just looking at the cover, and I think the name in Thai is not "Family Comes First," right? It's was there a reason for the change in the naming from the translation?
Okay, about because in the Families Come First consists of 3 names in 3 languages. Yeah, in Thai, in Chinese, and in English. And I think in Thai it's called Doi Rak La Pu Pang. It literally means the affection and affliction. Yeah, and the English name is Families Come First, right? Because when we got Doi Rak La Pu Pang, I want to make it like I want to play with the Chinese tradition or Chinese belief, and I look up the idioms. The idioms in Chinese that related to the family, and I found one that is say something like "家庭第一." It means the families come first, and I think that's made a great contrast between the Thai name and the English name. Yes.
Any more questions from the audience? Otherwise, I'll jump in with something. Okay, let's actually talk about the process of writing. We talked a bit earlier on our kind of pre-panel meeting about your writing process, but how do you? I guess how do you actually start writing a book? How do you finish writing a book? What's your day-to-day writing process? What are you doing every day in terms of being a writer?
Okay, when I get enough like information or the topic from the each story, I decided I will write about 11 or 12 short stories, and I start by plotting the storyline, starting from the beginning and the ending. How the story will begin, how it will end, and what will happen along the way. I plot it as a bullet point, and when I plot on the bullet point, I start writing it to connect the story. Yeah, and it took me about 8 months to write 12 short stories, and every day I wrote about 1 A4 in Google Docs. Yeah, I remember clearly that one day I went out drinking until 3 a.m. and I went back home dead drunk. But at that day, I still opened the Google Drive and yeah, let's do it. And I wrote it dead drunk. Yeah, and I edited it later. And
I was going to ask, was it any good, the writing you wrote at 3 a.m.?
To be honest, I didn't remember it. but I remember which one is the story I wrote when I'm dead drunk. It is 4th story in the collection.
Because it's funny because they always say, what was it, like write drunk, edit sober, I think is the term they sometimes use.
Yeah, maybe a little bit drunk can make the writing more smoother, I guess.
Well, why don't we talk about that 4th story, which I'm just going to check which one it is. That would be The Favorite Nephew? Is that the 4th story in the collection?
I guess so.
now that I've mentioned the favorite nephew, let's talk about that short story.
Nicholas isn't the favorite nephew.
Oh.
It is, but it's birth
Birth
mothers.
mothers. Okay, so let's talk about birth mothers then, which is, again, I'll quickly read the synopsis here. When a daughter-in-law is pregnant, it seems the child doesn't only belong to her and her husband, but also to her mother-in-law, blurring the lines of the real birth mother. Why don't you talk about kind of that story a bit and what prompted you to come up with this idea?
I think the source of this story came from the thing that I get from that Facebook status, but I think it's one other thing that we like commonly know. If you're like the daughter-in-law in the Chinese family, one of your duty is to give birth to the son. If not, you fail as a wife, as a woman, or as a woman in Chinese family, or as a daughter-in-law. And I think that's interesting to tell, because in nowadays there's still like something like this going on. Yeah, and I think this is the one of the topics that I want to tell or make the readers reconsider it. Yeah.
Any questions from the audience? Any more?
Actually, right now we have two Thai audience.
Oh, please, yes. I mean, would our Thai members of the audience like to say something? Please.
You can ask in Thai or English, Pipap, suit yourself.
Okay. I found that your short story has an execution in it. How did you? I believe that you have more than one execution in your each story. How did you manage the execution that when you use in your story? Like, how did you pick and then choose, and then how did you have a better execution, and then you sacrifice those things to make the story better?
Okay, and that's an interesting question and interesting answer are waiting for you. Let's start with this. I wanted every story to have like different way to tell, different execution, because I used to read a collection of short stories that all of them had the same way of like telling, and I think it's really pretty risky for reader to give them up like along the way. So when I decided to the theme what I'm gonna write about, I start by looking at my bookshelf. Yeah, I glance at my bookshelf, and if some books like catch my eye, I will like open it from like 2 or 3 pages, and this sentence is interesting. Maybe I can like do something with it. Yeah, and I think that's a really interesting way of me to like generating the idea by looking at the bookshelf. Yeah, and maybe if you guys have some like writer blogs, or if you can think of the idea, maybe look at your bookshelf. Yeah, that's my recommendation.
Who's the other Thai member of our audience? I'm gonna be mean and call on you. But like in terms of, you know, do you see some of these similar like family traditions in Thailand from your perspective? I mean, are these practices that you've noticed?
Okay. To me, I came from a Thai family, really Thai traditional family. But my husband, he's from a Chinese family. So when I with his family, there's some kind of similar thing that he wrote in the book that I didn't realize before. It's like I study the whole Chinese family in Thai by his book as well, as a culture kind of thing.
I'm going to use this as a segue to talk about another short story, which which is You, Rainy Days, and a Black Cat, which is about a relationship that crosses between Thai Chinese and non-Chinese people.
Yes.
I think could you talk a bit more about that story? And I believe that story also has what was inspired by another piece of art. I think is that the one?
Yeah, that's
Yes,
the one,
yeah.
Nicholas. You got it right. Okay, about I'm not sure about the English name of this short story. Could you tell me?
Oh, was it You, Rainy Days, and a Black Cat?
Oh, you rainy day and the black cat. Right, that's the one. I got this from my friend who has his mother is Thai and she married into the Chinese family and she doesn't get along with her mother-in-law well and she was treated not so good and I think that's one more interesting to tell because nowadays maybe you think that this kind of thing like extinct or something like that but they still there and I think that's worth telling and about the execution this one is inspired by In the Mood for Love by Wong Kar-wai. He's one of my favorite directors and he's inspired me a lot of like way of thinking, way of executing in my writing. Yeah, if you watch In the Mood for Love and if one day you maybe if one day this collection of short story is translated into the language that you can read, you will see the similarity, between the scene and the In the Mood for Love scene. Yeah, I hope one day you can read it.
Any more questions? All right, why don't we go with you? No,
I already asked one.
yeah.
Maybe
Let's
after.
let's go with her first, and then Sam can ask her second question.
My name is Leslie, and I'm a Chinese.
Leslie.
Yes. So I want to ask a question about the Thai and Chinese culture. As you all have mentioned that there's some part of Chinese culture that Thai people could not understand. So in your opinions, what's the hardest part to explain to Thai people of Chinese culture? Like, is the language or the religion, belief, or some life habits that it is the hardest part to explain?
From the feedback that I received, I think the hardest part that Thai reader trying to understand is the tradition about when once a year, like I said earlier, that we have to gather together to pay the respect for the elderly, the one who passed, our ancestor, or the divine being. And when Thai read it, they were like, I didn't get it at all. Why you have to do this kind of burdens to pay respect to the divine being? In Thai, we have just two incense, the three incense, and we Namo Tassa Bhagavato, something like etc., and then push, and then we're done. Yeah, but I think that's an interesting thing to see as feedback from the reader is to answer your question is a tradition. Does it a little bit different? Yes.
And then Sam had a question again.
Earlier, you said that you're the type of writer who doesn't take feedback very well. Is that what you said? Something like that.
What I said is I'm the writer who a little bit obsessed with the feedback.
Obsessed. Okay.
Yeah, because this one is my first book.
I see. Yeah, because I also write, and right now I have a friend who's editing my novel, and it's been really hard for me to take her feedback without getting very discouraged. And she's not trying to; she's trying to be helpful. But yeah, what is your advice for people? If someone gives you feedback that's hard to take, how do you keep going? I guess. Maybe you only got good feedback. So.
No. I usually got bad feedback too, but I think it's not about the feedback about the writing, but it's about how to take feedback in general, Sam. What I'm going to answer you. If you like adhere, or if you believe in what you're writing or what you're doing, I think feedback can like hurt you like 50% of it. Yeah, but if you hurt, let it hurt. But I think the most important thing is not to give up and keep on writing. Yeah, people hurt every day. I hurt. We all hurt every day. But like I said earlier, Sam, the most important thing is to keep going. Yes, and I hope you write really beautiful novel.
Do you have any other, I guess, kind of, I'd say writing tips, but any other kind of advice to people who are working on their own novels or short stories, want to get started in literary writing? Obviously, we have some, which is, keep on writing, even if you get home at 3 a.m. after a night out. Always write something. Don't get discouraged, or it's okay to feel discouraged from feedback as long as you keep going. Are there any other tips or advice that you would have to writers or people thinking about writing?
Okay. First one is it's practically the same with keep going thing, but I think discipline is the most important thing. Maybe I think that's why I respect Haruki Murakami so much, because every day he woke up at maybe 5 a.m. and he ran 10 kilometers every day, and he sit down at his desk and write about from noon to night every day. And I think that's really like respectful thing to do. And I'm trying to like write like him. Maybe even though every day nowadays I can write like 5 or 10 minutes every day, but yeah, as long as I'm still writing, it still counts. And yeah, and that's the one that I read it from. It's called On Writing by Stephen King. Yeah. He wrote something like, even though you're scared, but he thinks giving up is not the good things to do. You have to keep going, even though you're feeling like you're like playing with shit and not going anywhere. Because even though you wrote bad at the first, but you can edit it to make it better and better every time. So don't be afraid, just write it and make it the proportion that you can achieve every day. You don't have to write one A4 every day. You have to, even though it's, like I said earlier, 5 or 10 minutes every day. But if you do it every day, I think it's the most important thing to do. Yeah.
There's a microphone. And please also say your name as well.
Hi, I'm Shuchetana, and I had a question, I had a follow-up question based on what you just shared. How difficult is the process, or rather, could you share your journey from actually writing and finishing the novel to getting a publisher and getting the book out into the world?
Okay, I think it's more like the chance or opportunity because with my publisher, first I interviewed to work with them as editorial staff, but they reject me. But they say to me that if you have some like manuscript, you can send it. You can send it to me, and I sent it, and they rejected it one more time. But at that time, the feedback that he gave me is that my stories at that time didn't have the theme, the concept that will solidify all the stories. So at that time I thought, if your feedback is like this, how can I solve the problem? I think that's a thinking that I got from working as a copywriter in advertising agencies. It's about the problem solving. And when I can solve this problem, the next hard thing was how to keep writing every day. And as I said earlier, at that time I said to my friend that I'm feeling like I'm like hiking the mountain without seeing the summit. But my friend said you have to keep going because you already embark on the journey, and you're gonna give up like that? No, I'm not give up like that. So I have to keep climbing and climbing and climbing. And it took me, like I said earlier, 8 months, and then I submitted to the publisher. He took like 3 months to consider it, 3 months waiting without any like tangible reply or tangible response. And then the mail came in my mailbox. I remember it clearly. It was 1st January in 1st June in 2020, in 2020, and it took us 1 more year to edit it and publish it. So to put it simply, it took us, me and my publisher, 2 years to produce Families Come First, and I think that's like longest 2 years, one of the longest 2 years in my life. But the thing is, writing and waiting for your book to come out make me appreciate my life much more at that time. At that time I always think, oh, you cannot die today, you cannot die tomorrow, you cannot die. Not before the book came out, but when the book came out, oh, I love my life more. I don't want to die. I want to write. I want to keep writing. Yeah, and I think that's the magic of writing. It makes you love your life more and appreciate your life and know yourself more. And I think that's really pretty magical. Yeah, thank you.
So I do have to mention, this book won an award. It won the SCA Writes Award. How did it feel when you learned that your book was in consideration, that your book won? What's it been like since your book won this honor?
It was fucking surreal for me, Nicholas, and it still is every day. But I decided to not think to give it not much thought about it, because if you think about it so much, you tend to hold on to it, and I think it's one way to block your creativity, your possibility to create new work if you hold on to it too much. Yeah, so I just keep on writing, but there's a good side of it, because it boosts my self-esteem a little bit, because generally I'm the person with low self-esteem, and this helped me a little bit. Yeah, but I think the things that's more important to me isn't the award, but knowing that there are people who always supported me and be happy with me, with my achievement. And that makes me realize that I really have some good people in my life. And I think that's more important than receiving the award.
So I want to wrap up with a couple short questions. And first short question, translations. Are there any translations in the works of Family Comes First?
We're still at the negotiation process. Which language I think it's still confidential. Yeah, but yeah, talking about translation, I really, really hope that Families Come First will be translated into the language that other readers or the world can enjoy. And I think they can reflect or see themselves in the short stories and make them think. I think one of the objectives of Families Come First is to make us look back or reconsider what made us the way we are today. Yeah, and how we can not pass the wound or the things that hurt us into the younger generation to our children or something like that. Yes.
Yeah, because I think a lot of the things you talk about, a lot of the relationships you talk about in your short stories, they're not unique to Thai Chinese culture. You see similar things happening in other cultures too.
Yeah, I say this sometimes, but families come first. Maybe at the surface, it's about the life of the Thai Chinese people. But I think the core of the families come first is being human, because we as a human, in the lifespan of one person, whether it's short or long, I believe that we tend to hurt the one you love more than the one you hate. That's why there's a song called "We Always Hurt the One You Love in This World." Yeah, and I think if this book makes me realize this thing, we will hurt the one we love a lot less. And I think if this book can achieve that, it will be one of the greatest achievements for me.
Okay, last call for questions from the floor, from the audience. Yes.
Hi, I'm Emily, and I'm from China, and I'm from Teochew.
Hi,
Yeah.
Emily.
And the title of the novel is a question that family comes first. And I think you talk more about the Chinese part of the Thai Chinese culture. So I'm curious about, is there any parts that are influenced by the Thai culture, or is there any belief or value or religion that you have been changed as you are born in Thai?
I think in Thai culture and Chinese culture, we share the same belief that families must come first. Yeah, whether our needs or what we want is not like as important as the need of the family, and sometimes that needs can hurt us in so many ways. And yeah, I think telling this thing in families come first will make people reconsider and rethink the way that we live together as a family, and maybe we can live better as a family, because maybe like this title say, the thing that caused the wounds in the family, that it roots from love in the family. But how can we love without hurting each other, or hurt each other as less as possible? Because I believe as long as we love each other, we will figure out how to live together better. Yeah, as long as we love each other. And I think in family we have family that don't love each other. That is a truth that we have to admit. But as long as we love each other, I think we'll get it through.
So, last question from me. What's your dream book project? Your publisher comes to you and they say, we loved Family Comes First. We don't want Family Comes First too. You can do whatever you want. What's the kind of book, what kind of genre, what kind of topic? What's your dream book project right now?
One last hard question. I'm still not giving much thought about this, but how can I say it? Let's put it this way. As a writer, I think writing is the way to figure out about yourself and your life. And I think if my writing can make reader think about their life more, not about the way that, I have to do this, I have to do that, but what makes us the way we are today. Yeah, I think that kind of writing may be good for me. Yeah, and if in the future I have more appropriate answer, I will tell you, Nicholas.
Well, I look forward to the translation and all your other work. Thank you so much, everyone, for coming today. This was a great conversation. I hope you enjoyed it. And again, thanks so much to Min for coming out here, for coming to Hong Kong. Please give him a big round of applause, especially for someone who came in this morning after not a lot of sleep, after the global IT crisis that paused the world. So please, everyone, give him a big round of applause.